I'm a human being. Of course, I'm prejudiced. I don't know in your country or where you live, but here in Portugal, at least from time to time, I see people sharing that we should change some of our cultural expressions that lots of people use in their daily life, or from time to time at least, that have no directly, at least apparently, confrontation or prejudice intention or meaning, but because of historical reasons, they say it is bad. It is sharing prejudicious beliefs because it brings the zeitgeist, the spirit of the history of when those expressions were coined or start to be used. And it's really interesting to see how some of those people act because at least in my experience, um, I wasn't able to make them some questions that for me they were normal. I was just getting in touch with this type of information like face to face where I have to listen to this. So I'm going to make questions because I want to understand this deeply. Let's go to the bottom of things. And I was really emotional censored, as I say, or emotional apprehended, because my teacher was refusing me to answer some questions that I made her that were completely normal, at least in my view. And even though the idea of changing some language, just slash expressions for a better world, it is interesting. I think it's also interesting to conceptualize the fact that no, it's not to conceptualize, it is to reflect on the fact that we are all prejudiced because we are human beings. So, of course, we are prejudiced. Of course, we are going to prefer some people on top of another. Of course, we are biased. It's the natural law of things. And one thing to do with that, in a Jungian perspective, is to recognize that and be conscious and aware of it. So I can embody um, those thoughts and actions in a way that I shed some light on them and I incorporate the the meaning that I get from them, but the meaning, the good meaning, meaning I noticed that I was prejudiced and discriminatory in some way, and I noticed that and I accept that and I attribute some meaning to that. I transform that. So I put some shadow in the light because in the Jungian way of talking, we all have some shadow side. Meaning, here we have all bad traits, dark traits. We have all primitive animals with primitive instincts. So we should accept that. And when we accept that, and when we accept that and we incorporate that, we are more compassion towards others because we understand them better. Because in some fundamental sense, we are all the same in the way we act, right? We can detect when somebody is being sympathetic. We can detect when the other is being mean, right? Because we see the other somehow what we see in ourselves or some construct that we have about what is being bad, because that's how we evaluate other people, right? How we evaluate ourselves. So if I was going to do that, that will be bad. That's also why we judge superficially when we see something that is apparently bad, and if he knew the whole story, probably it wasn't that wasn't bad. It was good to do that, whatever that it is. So I think an idea to conceptualize, to reflect, is the idea that we are all prejudiced in some sense. Black, white, Negro, whatever it is, we are all prejudices. So to accept that, to recognize that, and to embody that fact, shedding some light on that, instead of reprehending others emotionally for their acts or non-acts, which is what captures most of people is non-acting also, because you are not changing my expressions or the expressions that I think are good for society. And when we neglect that we are prejudiced, all of us, it can be to men, it can be to women, whatever it is. When we neglect that and we think we are so perfect, that's because we are probably doing some goddamn projections into others that are harmful slash bad. Harmful, yeah. And that's bad, right? Because when we neglect some shadow inside of us, or when we neglect some of these primitive instincts, you can be goddamn sure that we are going to make that projection into others, or we are going to act in a self-destructive way, in some sense, or and into society, destructive way into society. And of course, we are somehow contributing negatively to society. We are also contributing negatively to us. And I think that's an interesting idea to share and to notice, because of course the idea behind changing language theoretically, what these people communicate, it is to eliminate prejudice, the prejudice acts, discrimination. But I think a better way to eliminate that and to do that is to have an expansion of consciousness and to understand those people, so we can have more compassion and understand other people and to have compassion to other people. We should have first compassion for ourselves, at least in this Jungian way that I'm talking about. And I hope it makes sense for you. I'm just a student, I'm nobody, but I hope it can make sense for you, reflect, and from myself too. So if you want to continue this discussion, please put on the comments and let's go rock and roll. This is my sharing, at least contacting with these types of people that want to share this message. That I think the way they do, sometimes it is more harmful than good. At least in the short term, for me, it really was. And who knows in long term, right? That's what Jordan Peterson says. They are moved by forces they don't even know. I think that's what he says, right? In some sense, that is a path to totalitarianism without us even knowing it. I think that's an interesting thought to share. Tell me what you think. Also, thank you as always. Good luck.